Yeah, very much better. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So and while we first enhanced our physical power, now we are able to enhance our brain power. Then we had a discussion about GDP and economic growth. So one of the great inventions of the 20th century was GDP measurement. How to measure our national product, because it made visible what the economy is. It's about how many products are being produced, how much money is being generated. So when we're talking about GDP measurement, we had a discussion. Okay, so what is GDP, and how do we measure it? So productivity and GDP, and what is the link between them? Well, first of all, I mean, it's a way of accounting. GDP, it's the sum of the consumption, the investment, the imports, exports, and government spending. That's if you add all these things together, then you can calculate GDP of a nation, for example. It is not perfect, but it's a good approach. Why is it not perfect? Because it has actually it ignores a number of things. Example, we can include the profit of Google in a GDP, which is fine, but it does not really measure the effect that Google has on our society today. And because basically Google now allows us to put all the knowledge in the world at our fingertips. We are now capable of absorbing almost any kinds of information. So combining the internet infrastructure with the software of Google, we can now basically find any kind of information. So that's not included in our GDP measurement. Another one is that what is not included in our GDP, very obviously, is that we are no longer capable of, we do not include the environmental pollution in our GDP, which is a problem as we are seeing today, because we are now confronted with a big problem with global warming and pollution in China, and the reason for that is basically because of the way that we are measuring our GDP, and we forgot to include those effects into the measurement of GDP. So the problem here is that what was once a model, an abstraction of how the economy works and what the effects of the economies are, and how we can allocate different monetary values to different things. The problem started when after the physiocrats in France in the early 17th century, they actually had a prominent role for the environment, and the effect of the sun on the earth, and that it allowed us to grow crops, for example. That was taken out with Adam Smith, when he said, okay, no, basically our productivity depends on the way that we are combining labor and capital, which is very much based on what we see in the factories. So the Adam Smith was British. He was captivated by the idea of industrialization. So he said, no, productivity comes from our factories, from our laborers, and from the money that people invest into these factories and the machinery to basically put things together. So if we add more labor and more capital, we can grow our output. But it didn't include the effect of energy, for example, more, and not the effect of the environment and of the sun. So that model, that abstraction, that was widely embraced by everybody, had a very big impact on our society today. So looking at the economic history, we have here we see the Industrial Revolution, and we see that over time, from the beginning of time, GDP started to climb very, very modestly with the number of people that were in this world. Then in the first Industrial Revolution between 1760 and 1840, we see only a very minor uptake because this only took place in England. It was not really something that was spread over the world, so the adoption was very limited. But the first Industrial Revolution had impact on the life in England. So we saw around 250, we saw the printing presses. Then the first steam engine came into development before 1700. Then this steam engine becomes more efficient, and around 1770, we have an efficient steam engine that can be used for trains and ships. Then we have a mass production of steel, and the internal combustion engine is something that drives the American industrialization in combination with oil. And that is when we see that there's a big uptake in the estimated global GDP per capita. So the total income that was the global production of all the in the world is growing dramatically. It's going from $100. Well, no, it was actually estimated in I don't know what the base year was here. It's probably 2000.
By the way, first industrial revolution is steam engine. Okay, second is combustion engine.
Yes.
Is this correct?
Coal and oil.
Second is oil.
Second is oil.
First is steam.
Yeah, and the first is the mechanical printing press.
Oh, mechanical printing press.
Versus television, radio, telephone.
Oh, this is the second one.
That's the second one.
First one, steam engine, is it?
The steam engine, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you look at the income, GDP per capita, and you look at the income distribution to show that there's actually a connectivity between innovation and income, we see that first the Dutch have a high share of global income. But then when the English start their industrial revolution, then we see that the British start to overtake the Dutch, and then the US start to overtake the British later on. So there is a correlation, historically speaking, between innovation and growing income of the GDP per capita.
By the way, just going back to prior. Yeah, by the way, the red and white line is Japan, right? But this is, I didn't know that 1950, oh, the end of World War, they're jumping up. Okay, I understand. Moving to next.
There's something else going on. Between the end of World War II and the mid-1970s, the U.S. households fully benefited from the increasing productivity. As we see here, this is productivity. This is basically the output per person. That's the productivity per person in the United States. That's the dark blue line.
Why they're so increasing productivity in the States?
Because basically in the States they have well, the Industrial Revolution, of course. They have more machineries. They organize themselves better. They have better infrastructure, which enables them to grow their output.
But we discussed, productivity a lot last Saturday. but still I don't understand very well, because productivity past a couple of decades we have no growth, right? No improvement, right?
Yeah.
But this chart showed 2011 still United States household is increasing productivity a lot. It's a differences among the different slide and this one.
Yeah, that's the next slide. So let's look at this. Look at this one. So the first message at this.
My simple question: why this is United States household productivity increasing or going upward until 2011? This is different from next slide, because this one is still productivity increasing. What do you mean?
Yeah. Okay. So let's first finish this slide and then move to the next one.
Yeah.
So basically, what we see is that the productivity in the United States is increasing, but it's not translated to higher incomes. There is the incomes, they grow a little bit, but not really.
This is middle class income, right?
Right. This is middle class income.
Because from 1980, rich people get more richer, but middle class people stable. This mean, right?
Exactly. So basically, if we look at the production function, the classical production function, that we see that productivity is the way that we are allocating the benefits of production to labor and capital, and the labor share in production has been on the decrease, the relative labor share.
Right, decline.
More and more capital has been invested.
Wages are was not increasing, right?
Right.
And so it means